Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Film Hustlers. Actually, Film Hustler, just me. Today, Tootie and Davey Dave are busy on something else, and I've decided to take on a co-host, Ann Lewis Roberts. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
Now, Ann has been a co-host in the past, and in some cases liked more than me as a host, so she may be taking over.
I don't think so.
From me eventually. I think the guys like you better. But yeah, thank you for being here. We're going to totally focus this show on reality, on non-scripted, and on what's happening and what potentially you guys can do if there's anything to do to pitch shows for reality television and non-scripted stuff. But first, I want to thank and send a big shout out to extrememusic.com, who is our partner on the show and has been from day one. We're big fans. Well, I'm a big fan of Extreme Music, and I know that Ann, my wife.
I am too.
Yeah,
I love a good sit down with a cup of coffee and look through all their different folders and silos. They have everything.
They really do. They really do. They have music from all over the world. They have composers from all over the world. And it's funny because I was recommending it to Sam, one of our directors. He did a short film, and I said, you got to go to extrememusic.com. They've got every type of music. I did a short film where I didn't even use a composer. I just used all Extreme Music. And,
wow.
And it was amazing. Yeah. For Beautiful Darkness. It was, all the music was curated on their site. And you got to check it out. Go to extrememusic.com, open an account. It doesn't cost any money. And try their music out. Punch in the type of music you want, whether it's a drama, whether it's a comedy, whether you want kind of plucky comedy moments, or you want thrillers, or even horror. Actually, horror is one of the biggest.
What did you call me?
Things on the show. But you can check out extrememusic.com. They are the best in the business.
You know, another little known fact about those guys? They have people who will help you. If you call and you say, I need something this unique, they have people who will come back and say, go to these folders. Actually,
if you sign up, they'll call you. Right. If you sign up, they'll call you. They didn't know that they sponsored the show, but when I signed up, they called me and they said, hey, how can we help you? I was like, well, I'm a big fan and I've used you many, many times on tons of movies. Yeah, they're terrific.
Love them.
So go check them out, extrememusic.com, for all your music needs. All right, let's get into it. I think people want to know, there's been so much information and there's so many people on Instagram saying the business is leaving. There's no more reality. There's no more scripted. Everything's going to a different place. There's no more money. Now, one thing I will say, these are things that I know for sure. There is tons money. There's probably more money than there's ever been in the business. I know that it's going to different places. Can you tell us about what's happening? The big companies seem to be buying up all the little companies. All these networks are going under different banners. Like what is happening?
Hello. Listen, it's a lot, and I'm going to try to be really simple about it. But just to set the stage, there are broadcast networks, right? That's ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, right? Then there's cable networks. That happened about 25 years ago. That's when people started getting really focused on a subject, like CNN News or Fox News or Food Network, HGTV.
Bravo.
Yeah, Bravo, Oxygen. So those became really specific. If you loved crime, if you loved badass women hanging out together, if you wanted to do lifestyle stuff, if you wanted to cook, you went to those channels and you could watch them all day long, almost like an early version of streaming,
Yeah.
but you watch what was programmed there. So those are what we're used to. What has recently come up that's changed the game is all the streamers. So I think you guys know, the streamers are Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime Video, Max, Discovery Plus, Roku, Hulu, YouTube. So those are streamers, and that's where you can go and find, it's called OTT. You can find anything that you want. You don't have to wait for it to play like you did on cable or Remember, what was that thing? TiVo, where you taped
TiVo,
things.
yeah, there's still TiVo.
Where you recorded
we have
things.
TiVo in this house.
But for Netflix, you don't have to wait to record it. You don't have to watch for 5 hours till your show comes on. You just go find it. And that changed everything. So now the younger generations are like, I'm only streamers. I'm only YouTube. I'm only that. And they don't even have cable packages anymore. And they don't even watch broadcast network anymore. So that created a huge imbalance. Whereas before we all just did the same thing like a herd. And now we're split into half, right? Half of the people are watching streamers. Half of the people are super old school, sort of a generational gap.
And then all the young people.
And then there's a lot of people in the middle who are straddling both and are pissed off because they have this expensive cable package and they also have to get Paramount Plus and this and that and this and that. So little by little, each year, more and more people are dropping off of cable and broadcast and trying to find everything that they need and they want on the streamers. Right. And so that has created, I think I talked about this last time, all these buyers and owners of these big legacy entertainment brands, they're sort of carrying an entire division dedicated to the networks and cable, as well as an entire new division dedicated to growing their streamers. So that costs a lot of money. And as we keep moving forward, they're putting less and less money into keeping around these legacy cable shows and putting more and more money into taking that same content and putting it onto the streamers that they own.
Right. Well, what people, especially people that listen to this show, I think what people really want to know is the world where you knew somebody that owned a taco truck, or you knew somebody who was a chef, or you knew a little kid who was a chef, when you could literally come up with any idea and put it on television 20, 25 years ago as a reality show, those days, are they over?
Well, I think you have to look at bandwidth, and you have to see that on ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, those are the broadcast networks where you used to be able to sell things. That's been around for unscripted on those shows have been around for 25 years. So game shows like Survivor and Big Brother, they're still going on, holding space there. Music competition, American Idol, The Voice, home shows, Extreme Makeover. Those shows, Bachelor, Dancing with the Stars, those shows are on. Back in the day, they didn't have them. So anything that you said, people were like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Those have done so well that they're still taking up half of the lineup. So those are hard. Wheel of Fortune came around in 1964 and it's still on the air. So I think you have to look at places where they're like full up with all those kind of legacy shows and think, okay, maybe that's not where I'm going to pitch.
Where do you pitch?
You've got true crime is a big thing right now, and anybody can pitch true crime. It's a organizing principle like Snapped on Oxygen has been on forever. And the organizing principle of Snapped is any man or woman who has snapped, was seemingly normal, and snapped and murdered someone.
Right.
So anybody can come up with that idea. There's buried in your backyard. Okay, what's that organizing principle?
Right.
Somebody buried in the backyard. Yeah. So people are loving, buried at, dead at sea. Those are just people who died out on the ocean. Right. So the networks, Oxygen, ID, Netflix, they are looking for new organizing principles, and anybody can come up with that idea and then go find a production company that does true crime and pitch them the idea. What you do need to have, and then there's also docusoaps, which anybody can pitch that. What you do need to have for a docuseries, a true crime docuseries or special, is access to either the murder victim, the murder victim's family, the cop. And by the way, that's anybody too. Unfortunately, someone in your family may have had an unsolved mystery murder. Is that a story you want to tell? Elliot Goldberg just had a really cool special that was on Netflix, and it was a childhood classmate of his that had this horrible murder, and he wanted to tell the story. So again, unfortunately, death, by murder is everywhere in every corner. So if you have access to that, or you have a new organizing principle, go pitch a production company that does true crime.
If you have the murder victim, then you're changing the game.
Well, that would be a hit.
That would be a hit.
Pay-per-view.
In the
Did I say that? Is that what I said?
Underworld. No, you didn't say that. But I was thinking, like, if you had the murder victim, that'd be amazing.
And it can't just be, I read an article about it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You got to go do the work and get yourself attached to somebody with it. Otherwise, you're just telling somebody something they could have found themselves.
That's really, really good information. So if you read something or know someone or heard someone from somebody or heard a story, you can't just go tell someone, hey, I heard about this person who, got murdered or murdered somebody else and is in jail and didn't do it. Like, that's not enough. You actually have to communicate with those people, get them to agree that you can pitch their story, and then you have something to sell. Okay, that's fair. That's fair, and that's useful, and I think it's necessary. Now, let's talk about something that's really seems to be changing everything. Netflix is in close to 200 countries. Right? A lot of countries all over the world. You're talking about billions of minutes viewed on most of their shows, no matter what. In fact, so much so that, a show like Suits, which was canceled, a show like You, that was canceled on Lifetime, has a second life on Netflix. And not only did Suits get canceled, get put on Netflix and become a big hit, they're doing another season of it, right? So is that happening with non-scripted on Netflix? Are they picking up anything that is becoming like having a new life on Netflix? Not really, right? It doesn't feel like there's anything like that happening in non-scripted.
Well, Brandon Reig is doing a great job.
He's at Netflix, right?
He's the head of unscripted at Netflix, and he's from ABC and NBC. And he's doing a great job of creating a different category for the shows that are unscripted there. Now, he's still fishing in the same pond, dating, with Love is Blind and Social Experiments with The Circle and Squid Games. And he's still fishing in the same ponds, but he is finding new things. I can't think of any example where he's taken something and brought it back. But the interesting thing is there's a couple of shows there that anybody could have come up with. There's a lot. Most of the shows there are huge IP from other countries or production entities that Brandon's been close with and been buying from forever and ever. But there's just two examples because of the people who listen to this podcast that anybody could have come up with and pitched to a production company. One is It Cake? I mean, that...
I want cake.
Yeah, you and I talked about this, that's been a staple segment on baking shows forever, right? HGTV, The Bake Off, blah, blah. But around 2020, it started being, a sort of a fun meme or a fun TikTok to say, is this cake or is this not cake?
Well, because people got really good at it, right? Like you could see earlier designs where it was like, oh, it looks like a duck and it's very close to looking like a duck. But literally that show, you can't tell if the coffee table is a piece of cake or
eggs and bacon.
Yeah, like whatever it is, like you can't tell, which is, I think, the improvement of the art form has caused there to be a show, right?
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing that it's rare, but it totally happens where you see something on Instagram or you see something that intrigues you on TikTok and you go to whoever you know at the production company and you say, I feel like this is something. Now, don't go to somebody and say, did you see this thing? Now you figure out what the show is. You got to really think about it and go, what would I do if I was going to expand that? Because all cable was us expanding news stories or Entertainment Tonight stories or Access Hollywood stories or a House Beautiful story. So just think of TikTok and Instagram Reels. Those are just what used to be in magazines. It's a little moment in time, but then you still have to do the work and figure out, like, how would that be a half an hour format? How would that be an hour format? Like, what would I do with it? Nailed It is another example. That's just that's a comedian show. That's like, some of those shows from the 50s where you're making fun of people, or Super Pets Tricks, or, something where, like, Nailed It is just about people who are horrible chefs, and they're like, look, I did a great job. I nailed it. I mean, that's just comedy.
Right.
For some reason, people love it and they want to laugh, and it's taken off. So again, there's still stuff you're going to stumble on in your everyday life, whether it's true crime, comedy, but you got to take a moment and come up with something. Otherwise, you're going to say it to someone. They're going to not hear anything you have to say because they're going to be like, yeah, I saw that TikTok too. Or they're going to say, yeah, so what? What do you want to do with that? Take the moment.
Yeah, it's a weird business as it refers to non-scripted, because when you think about the things that I love, and I think you love them too, it's like you've got Barbecue Brawl, you've got Beat Bobby Flay, and basically what the network does, it takes Michael Simons and he puts them on, Barbecue USA, and then he takes these guys and they create a third and fourth show, and Barbecue's Best, or I mean, on and on and on, right? All different shows with their own talent. So it's not like you're going to go pitch that network a barbecue show, because they're already internally trying to figure out how to expand that vast piece of real estate that they have, which is the barbecue world, right?
Well, no, that's more, they own Bobby Flay and they own Michael Simon IP already, right? So Jane Latman, super smart, oversaw food and HGTV. Now it's Betsy. And listen, if you have Bobby Flay and he's killing it, you're going to turn that into Beat Bobby Flay, which is 37 seasons in our favorite show. Then you're going to turn that into Bobby and Giada because they're good friends. So they're going to go to Italy together. Then you're going to do Barbecue Brawl because he's good friends with Michael Simon, and meat is Michael Simon's thing. And then you're going to bring in all their different friends. And part of what we love is the camaraderie of all of our buddies, because in our minds, we want to think that all those chefs that are on our favorite shows are friends and they're hanging out. And they're doing that for us. There's spinoffs of all of these people that we love. Guy Fieri, the Rock the Block on HGTV is the other smart spinoff of all those people used to have shows. Now I'm supersizing it and I'm having them compete against one another, and I get all of them. I get my fill and I get a makeover. So again, it's not that you shouldn't pitch these places that have these big legacy shows. It's just, you should not pitch them their own shows or their own talent. You can pitch them new ideas and say, this might be good for Bobby Flay, but just know that Bobby Flay has his own production company, so does Guy, and you should probably go to them and pitch it to them rather than HGTV, because they don't know what to do with it.
So they won't have, you won't have really a leg to stand on when it comes to negotiate for yourself when that's all sort of in place already, right? I have a more of an actual scenario that I want to throw at you. This is one that you actually lived. So you did a show called Cheap Old Houses, right?
Yes.
Then Who's Afraid of a Cheap Old House?
Yes,
right? Same group.
My favorite show.
But the way that you came in contact with that show is that Bill Stanky had a client who on Instagram was doing extremely good business with a IG name that was Cheap Old Houses. And what they did was they put on houses from around the United States that were $150,000 or less and were for sale and were amazing buys, right?
And historically bitchin'.
Yeah, historically amazing. So that in of itself was a great Instagram business for them. And Bill came to you and said, I think this could be a great show. And then you went to your people and you guys actually did 2 seasons of that show.
Right. And again, we had to come up with what's the TV version of this. Ethan and Elizabeth are extraordinary humans and pieces of talent, but their Instagram feed is real estate focused, right? It's a click through to these amazing houses, and you're done with that in 14 seconds. Right. So how do you turn that into a 30-minute show? Where do you go to find these houses? Right. And then what do you do with them that's satisfying? You know, some people really like just walking through and looking at them and listening to Ethan and Elizabeth say, oh my God, see that doorknob over there? That is this famous person. You could never get that again. It's like having, you know, the Hope Diamond. Right. And then see that thing over there? Like that's crumbling and you want to get rid of that right now. And then Who's Afraid of a Cheap Old House was, you know, incredible before and afters that you don't see anywhere else on the network. So you really have to, you have to develop something that is familiar to the viewer at that network and yet different enough that it doesn't make it feel like this is a waste of my time.
Right. I mean, but just to like connect the dot, Cheap Old Houses, the IG account, there was Bill Stanky, who was their manager / exec producer, who knew you, who then brought this to you, and then you sort of curated a whole show around it.
Came up with a pitch.
Yeah, came up with a pitch.
And then pitched it to HGTV.
And then you guys sold it. Yeah. So let's, assuming, completely different scenario, assuming I was someone that either had a unique podcast, not connected to anything big, or had an IG account that covered gosh knows what, I don't know, something interesting like Cheap Old Houses. If I had that and my numbers were reasonable and it was a little bit of a business for me, could I come to you and say, hey, do you think that this is potentially a show?
Yes, but I think you've got to think about it, you know, what it is, because I would say 80% of stuff that you're excited about on social media is perfect for that art form.
Got it.
For that length, for what you see. And then maybe 10% of it can be expanded to something else. So don't think just because it tickles you that it is a show. You know, it's got to be repeatable. It's got to be something that you could watch for 100 episodes. It's got to be something that same with what you say, you know, like a structure, you know, a beginning, middle, and end. How is it satisfying? Will I watch all the way through? Because again, a lot of that stuff that we see is 30 seconds, 15 seconds, a couple of minutes. This is like 20 minutes of someone sitting on their butt watching a show. So it's got to be compelling. I mean, the most recent one I was so devastated not to get is Caleb in New York. He's just a regular guy who for the past couple of years has been walking up to New Yorkers and popping the question and saying, hey, how much do you pay in your rent or mortgage? And then the people are like, what? Because it's such a personal question. They answer, and then he says, can I go see your house? And they take him on tour. So it's like almost like a throwback to Robin Leach.
Rich and Famous?
Yeah, the Rich and Famous houses, but it's all New York. And I was like, that's a show. I chased him down. I hunted him. I got to him, and then they put me to his managers, and they had already signed a deal with somebody.
Yeah.
So again, you got to reach out to that person. You got to come up with like what the idea is. But if you're a producer or have found your way to this world, you can there's more content than ever to use to come up with ideas for. So just put yourself through a filter of like, could I watch this for 30 minutes? Could I watch it for an hour? And be honest with yourself, and then you won't waste your time.
Right. And then if your answer is yes, this I could watch for an hour. Yes, this is how I could potentially, link a whole season together. Then with that in hand, could they come to someone like you that has connections at the networks and see if there's anywhere to put it?
Yes.
Something like that, yeah.
For sure. And what I would do is I would look, well, either you know somebody who does lots of stuff and you trust them and they're your homie. If someone's your homie, go to them. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's a small industry, and if you have a friend who's at a production company, go to them. Yeah. Then secondly, I would say, go find somebody who does a bunch of programming in the category that you're pitching. So if it's home, if it's cooking, if it's dating show, if it's like a housewife show, if you know 5 women who are really engaging and have some great organizing principle, like go to the people who make Housewives. There's a bunch of different companies that make the Housewives, but you can find it on the internet, like in 4 seconds. Go find somebody who does the show that you do and just get to their development person and say, all the people who do true crime. And just to talk about podcasts for a sec, podcasts are sort of like the talk show of this moment in time. Like all those syndicated talk shows that we used to watch during the daytime, they're down to like 3 or 4 of them. But podcasts are really powerful, and it's becoming one of the biggest things that people watch on YouTube. YouTube is the number one streamer.
Yeah.
And one of the big things that people are watching is the video version of these podcasts, which is sort of like a talk show. And for 2025, and those are really popular. They're doing really well.
So should people be less attached to that old system of like, oh, I have an idea, let's go to a producer, let's go to a network, let's go see if this reality or non-scripted show works, and then they shoot it down, and then you think you're done. But should people be less attached to that system and potentially be creating a podcast about the ideas or the true crime stuff they have? Or because I've actually listened to a couple of true crime things, and true crime podcasts have become television shows and movies based on the podcast. And then there's podcasts that we like.
Oh my God, I love Dax and Monica on Armchair Expert. Oh my God, Mel Robbins.
Yeah, Mel Robbins.
And Mel Robbins had a talk show back in the day when talk shows were coming to an end. And I think it was a couple of seasons, and then that went away, like all talk shows. She is so popular now, and she has several books, and Let Them is her latest one. And now she's being interviewed by Oprah, who used to be our talk show queen. And Oprah's saying, oh my God, this book is one of the best I've ever read. So to answer your question, I don't think you can forget about any of the ways to get to people.
Just do them all.
I think you have to do them all. I think you have to sit down and decide, do I have something compelling enough to talk about to do a podcast? And if so, do I have the gumption in me to do 100 episodes of it before I become a success? Or do I have a true crime podcast in me? Condé Nast is taking all of their articles from all of their magazines that have gone under, that we don't buy anymore.
Yeah.
But they're digital, and they're taking those and turning them into all these great series. I think there's one called Amanda. No, it's called A Scamda or something like that. But all these articles, the writers are then, telling the story in a podcast, then someone's hearing it because it's popular, and then it's becoming a series. So I think you have to do all of it right now, just like we've always had to do,
Yeah. So you could do a podcast, put it on Buzzsprout, and put it in like 70 countries or whatever. And if there's a point of view that people like, you could actually tape that, put yourself and your guests on a podcast that shows on YouTube and become something that actually earns some money. And then from there, like the sky's the limit, right? Like if someone else sees you, because I'm thinking about Mel, and I didn't know who she was until recently, but I was compelled by her content. So as I would receive, information about her or posts from her on IG, I would copy them and send them to you and my daughter and saying like, hey, I really like what she's saying. I had no idea who she was. I'd never seen her before. So it's interesting because a month or two later, now she's like the hottest, new psychiatrist or person that gives you advice about your life. And
she's been around for 15
That's
years.
Crazy.
And she failed, I have my fingers up in quotations, at her talk show at the time when all the talk shows were losing ground because people weren't watching daytime anymore. But I'm sure that felt not fun for her. And here you are, you get reinvented. One thing I want to say about YouTube is something that is the number one streamer. You don't need funding. You don't need a network to tell you what to do. You can go there and put up your own content and see if it resonates. Now, what you do need to do is be consistent about it and find ways to get it out. And the interesting thing that I'm learning, I'm working with the folks at YouTube for a couple of different channels. And the thing that I'm learning is that, you have to cut it up and send it to all the places, right? You have to cut it up and send it to TikTok, to Instagram, to Snap, to everywhere, and try and get people where they are, because people don't live in one space anymore like they used to live on a Friday night, on a must-see Thursday night, where they just parked their asses in front of NBC and watched whatever was given. That's just not the way it works anymore. So you have to go to all the places, and hunt for people. You can do one piece of content a week that goes on YouTube, and then you can cut it down a bunch of different ways and put it out on all your other feeds, right? Your IG, your TikTok, your Snap, all the different places. And then try and point them back to your YouTube channel. Try and point them back to one hero place, which I imagine would be your YouTube channel, and see if you can grow. See if you can grow from there.
And at least there's a platform to do that on. And I don't think there was, 25, 30 years ago or whatever. So that's kind of cool. So I think the answer is, everybody, that you got to try everything you can to get your content out. But I also think we're in a different time where, if you think the business is easy, it's not as easy as everyone thinks. It does take a lot of grit. It does take a lot of effort. It does take some creative thinking. And you do have to walk into a room and have that executive go, wow, I never thought of that. That's really interesting. Because if you're going in with stuff that they thought of, you're just not going to get anywhere.
Or if you're going in with just an idea,
right, with
nothing that they couldn't have come up with, you will get cut out, because they can't afford to just have people, think about it. If you could have that conversation with like your aunt over coffee, it's not enough. If you could say, oh my God, I have this one piece of the pie that nobody else has, then you got something.
Yeah, that's interesting. The one thing I really do miss is I don't miss it in terms of, because I like the idea of being able to watch an episode, have it cliffhang, and immediately watch the next episode. But there was a time, like you're talking about must-see TV, there was a time when you'd watch The Sopranos and be really satisfied, and the filmmakers would cliffhang you so well that you'd have to wait an entire week to see the next episode, and you couldn't wait to get to the next episode, and it took an entire week. And there was a feeling that you had about television when that happened. And it's not there anymore because it's all instant gratification. Jesus, I watched 5 episodes of docuseries on Prime yesterday, and I just watched the whole thing.
Well, but I would say this, that everything is cyclical. The distribution platform, the thing that just happened with the streamers, that's not cyclical. That's like over.com. Like, just like when cable came and we were like, is that going to go away? No. But this is a significant shift in the way we watch things. Just like when you got your Apple phone, or your iPad or whatever, and we all lived, right? We all survived. But Drew Barrymore and Hollywood Squares from, Jesse Collins Entertainment, and my friend Elaine Metaxas, this is her show. It just premiered to 24 million people on a night of the week on CBS. That's a big deal.
Numbers, yeah.
And so Abbott Elementary does really well. Tim Allen's new show, Shifting Gears on CBS, doing really well. Again, that's scripted. Hollywood Squares is a game show, but I guess what I'm saying is everything's always comes around. Those are things that come on once a week, and people are getting excited about it right now. Live is getting its comeback. Look at Netflix, which was the binging capital. They did so well with Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. They through the roof. That was a live event. You had to go to Netflix, your binging home, to watch it. They're doing the SAG Awards, which is Mark Bracco and Janine Doucette producing for Brandon. That's this month as well. And again, you have to tune in to watch it. So that's new to them because they'd never done live before. So they're like, hey, let's get people who like it live. Because as you know, I like it live.
Yeah.
I love an award show. I love Car Chase, where we're all watching together at the same time. There's something yummy about that to me. And I don't think that's going to go away, but I do think our business is cyclical. And if you want to stay in it, you have to just go with what is happening at that moment in time and get your foot in the door any way you can.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thanks for sitting in. I think we all learned a great deal about the nature of the business. And it feels like we understand more about what's going on than we did a year ago.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, keep working, keep pitching, keep thinking, and there's shows to get out there, and keep enjoying, what you're watching, because I think there's always more to watch, which is a crazy thing. All right. Well, thanks again, and we'll see you guys next time on Film Hustlers.